Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello and welcome to the latest episode. I think it's Tuesday the 14th of April 2026. A very warm welcome to you. I hope you had a lovely weekend. It was certainly perfect weather to be up on the plot, which is where I was all weekend. So, news from the field. I have mulched the rose bed number 1, with the contents of the bottom of the duck house. So there's normally bark down. The chickens went in, scratched it all up, made it into a really easy thing for me to pick up. So loaded up a whole load of wheelbarrowed it all the way down the plot, and now there are no obstacles in the entrance or the pathway, so you can get straight down, and the roses are right down at the far end, which is strategic because things that were going to be in over winter or all year round, I have put them the furthest away from the entrance so that I can hop in and out for the things that need a little bit more babysitting. So that was very satisfying to get all of that mulch down, and I need more actually. There isn't going to be enough, but the chickens are quite busy in there, so hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll have a little bit more. And my hope is that that will just fertilize the soil really nicely as well. All the roses are doing fine, and they've put on lots of new growth, which is lovely. But of course, they're all babies, and I keep looking at the roses in my garden thinking, why aren't they as big as these guys? So never mind, they'll grow. Now, I've also weeded the whole of bed 3. That's mostly got, what's that got in it? That has got perennials, the old perennials that I lifted and divided, and they are doing absolutely fine. It's pretty full up, actually. I think I've only got about 7 square meters in there left of space, so that's not ideal, but at least it's all been weeded now. My other half has been removing more nettles, so he got another 4 square meters done, which is great. And then I've also been weeding bed 4. Now this is the really, really long one, so he's doing the bit where all the nettles are really, really bad, and then I'm just sort of tinkering around getting the creeping thistle out. I also moved finally my scabious. Now this was grown from seed last year, first time I'd ever grown it, and this is the one that my mother said, oh, why are you growing something that you can find on the side of the road? But mine was very, very pretty, I think prettier than the stuff on the side of the road, and I had a blue and white mixture. So I had no idea what was going to come up, and it was so gorgeous. Never grown it before, and it was just the most beautiful plants. I had them in 2 different locations, and I didn't net them, which was a mistake, so I will be on the case for that this year. But the result was I had some really unusually twisty, bendy shapes, and I think that's one of the lovely things about flowers, is that you just have these incredible shapes. And my wedding and event florist bought some. They were very popular, and then the ones that I didn't sell, I cut them and dried them over the winter, and have just been tinkering around because they have very pretty little seed heads on them. Now, my understanding was that scabious were annuals, and it wasn't until I'd lifted half of them and thrown them away that I thought to myself, maybe I should have left some of those in, because they are perennial in some places, and I didn't think mine would survive over the winter. So half the patch I left in over the winter, and lots of nettles grew up around them, obviously, and they just got completely neglected. And when all the beds got restructured, it turned out that this clump of scabious were going to be right in the middle of a pathway, so they had to be lifted and moved anyway. So I spent a bit of time doing that, and then they've been transplanted into bed 4. And because they're quite big plants now, and they had sort of fallen over the winter as well, so they then, obviously, as soon as they fall over, they just start growing on the ground. So when I replanted them, they had to then be staked, and it was one of those projects that I thought, I bet this is going to take more time than the value of the plants or what I could actually get from them. And I had this thought where I thought, actually, I'm sure this is one of these jobs where professional growers would say, cut your losses, throw them away, start from scratch. Don't spend too much time, because will you get that time back in the form of money? And I So I had this dilemma and I thought, no, they've done so well over winter. It would be absolutely sacrilege to throw them away. So they've all been staked with these lovely little bamboo tripods and all tied in, and they're really well developed. Like I looked at something and I thought that looks like it's going to turn into a flower stalk. So hopefully they will start flowering before anything else does, which would be great. In the greenhouse, I have sown my first batches of my half hardies. So as you know, I started off with the hardies at the beginning of March, and I did see that post on Instagram about someone saying Easter is the perfect time to start doing your half hardies. And I was quite busy over Easter, so I don't know how anyone has time to do it over Easter. But anyway, I have started mine. So I've done the first batches of Aster, Craspedia, Didiscus, Gomfrina, which is a new one for me this year, and Nicotiana, and also the Cosmos. Now, the Nicotiana, I have grown that in the past, but I didn't grow it last year. And I thought that was probably a bit of a mistake because they are really, really lovely plants. So hopefully they will come to something. But my goodness, the seeds are absolutely tiny. And when I open the packet, when you find seeds in a really, really tiny test tube, you're going to have trouble because they're just absolutely minute. They're basically so small that you can't just put them in a packet because you'd never find them. And I've also got hundreds of Cosmos. I don't know where I'm going to put all of those this year, actually. And mine were a disaster last year, a total disaster. So I'm hoping to do better this year. It's one of those things. I've always done really well with Cosmos, just growing them for myself or for clients. But the minute I tried to do something clever last year, they weren't having any of it. Anyway, I've got seed from a different place this year and some very, very pretty varieties. So fingers crossed they are fine. I've also, on a tangent, done most of my vegetable seeds, or at least the first batches. So we're going big on vegetable seed this year. And we've got this really cute little veg patch area up at the chickens, which I really want to get the veg in straight away, because if I don't, I'm just going to steal it for cut flowers, and that would be wrong. So I've got beetroot, aubergine, turnips, 2 different types of spinach, one for the chickens and then one for me. Also climbing beans and padron peppers, which is a new one for me because I go to Spain every now and then, and the Spanish do this incredible tapas with like roasted padron peppers, and they are so awesome. They're also wildly expensive, like not in Spain, but to buy the seeds, it was about £3.50 for 10 seeds, which I thought was pretty wild. But anyway, I've sown all of those as well. And I also found in my seed box some random stuff from last year, including sweet corn and a few other bits and pieces. And I also need to do a second sowing of broad beans and peas as well. I've got masses of peas. So hopefully they will all do really, really well. I'm desperate to get some of the hardies out of the greenhouse now and hardened off and out, because I have dramatically run out of space. So much so that I actually had to go and buy another shelving unit for the greenhouse on Saturday. And I was in my local garden centre and they had one knocked down. So I got a 4-tier shelving unit reduced, which was amazing. So that's gone up, but now we're just definitely at capacity. My next door neighbour's given me a whole load of baking trays that he no longer wants. And I have worked out that I can fit 2 chicken thigh trays on each baking tray, which is great. So it means that everybody can go on the shelving unit, sitting on a baking tray, and I can just water the baking tray, and then they all get watered from the bottom instead of having to move everybody onto the table and sit them in a tray and water them and then move them back onto the shelf. So that's a great space-saving device. My first batch of snaps that I did at the beginning of March, I've actually had to throw the soil block away. They did absolutely nothing whatsoever. So I don't know what happened there, because I have got snaps that I sowed a fortnight later and they're doing great guns. So maybe it was the soil blocking. I've definitely found that super, super challenging. And when I was looking at the seedlings this afternoon, I've got agrostemma in a huge tray, and then agrostemma that I did as a soil block. And the ones that are in the huge tray that was sown a fortnight after the soil block ones, they are twice the size. So clearly the soil blocking ones are not a technique that I'm going to carry on with. Now, what else have I been doing? Oh, yes, I've only been putting vermiculite on top of my seeds this year. This is kind of a new thing. I used to put a very light covering of compost over the seeds in the trays when I sowed them, and sometimes it's challenging because I reuse old compost out of this enormous tub that I have in the garden, and it's a mixture of everything that goes in. So some of my pots have got quite soily soil in it, and some of it is a bit more composty. So whatever ends up in this big tub just gets stirred around loads before I use it. And on the odd occasion, I'll throw in some fresh compost, but I don't really like using fresh compost. And so it can be quite challenging to find a really nice, loose tilth of sort of composty stuff to go on the top, depending on where I am in this, wading my way through this enormous tub. So this year, I'm just doing a vermiculite covering on everything. And everything seems to be absolutely fine. I've not had any problems. And I try not to touch the seed apart from obviously where I'm touching it to put it in the trays. But I try and use my nails. They're very short, but I try not to pick anything up with my fingers. So I think it's good germination. Well, it's excellent germination, I think. And then it also looks nice and tidy. Now, I've been given some amaranthus seedlings as well, which is really nice. Now, I wasn't going to grow them this year. I did them last year. Nobody wanted them. But when I grew them in 2024, they were very popular with one of the local florists, the one that I took all that stuff in and all the petals fell off. So they'd never bought from me again. And my wedding event florist didn't need any. So I thought, no, I don't think I'll do them this year. But I was given a small pot with what looks like about 100 seedlings in it. So assuming I get around to pricking them out and potting them on, they can go outside as well. And in fact, having been through all the mood boards for the weddings that I've got this year, I think actually it's going to be a good call to have some of those. Now, very randomly, some chicken news. Molly and Lion have now got little tiny, I don't know what you'd call them. They're like the little tiny plastic caps on the ends of their toes and their spurs, because they are causing slight havoc with the girls. And I don't have enough girls for each of the boys to have a large number. And so my other half keeps telling me to get rid of the youngsters, the young cockerels, and I just can't do it, because I think my personal view is once you raise them, once you hatch chicks, you take this huge gamble about what sex the babies are going to be. And I feel like I made them, and therefore it's my responsibility to take care of them. Now, there are charities that will rehome cockerels, and there are all these cockerels that just need homes. So I couldn't possibly do that. And we don't eat anything from the plot. They are very much my family, and that would never ever happen. So the boys are very firmly part of the family, but something needed to be done. And I'm on the lookout for some really big monster hens to put in with them. Now, the boys obviously will calm down as they get older. It's just their teenage years, and they're just a very highly strung breed and sex mad at the moment. I mean, it's spring. Everybody's sex mad at the moment. But they are causing a bit of damage. So Molly is just very clumsy and just makes a right hash of things. And anyway, so I thought I've been trying to figure out something to do for the hens, and I have got some saddles. I've bought saddles in the past for the hens. They're made out of like a cotton twill, and they don't really work. They sort of slide off and the hens overheat, and then you get mites living in them, and it's all really messy. So I was trying to think about something that I could put on the cockerel's toenails that is obviously safe and cruelty free, because filing them down doesn't really work, because they still are nails on the end of toes, whether you file them down or not. So what I've done actually is I've got a bit of electrical cable, like something that you would have going from your lamp to your plug, and stripped the wiring out from the center, and they've and then chopped it up into little pieces, and then stuck them on the ends of their feet. And they're soft enough that they can obviously tread the girls and not rip them to pieces, but hard enough that they can still kind of scratch the ground. And the cockerels don't seem to care at all, but I can't stop laughing at them. They look absolutely hysterical. So it's little tiny pieces of white cable on the bottom of their toes, and they look like they've been to a nail salon and had their nails done. So I do want to reassure you, if you're thinking that sounds like a health and safety animal cruelty issue, it absolutely isn't. The worst thing would be to have the hens damaged, because I have had this in the past, which is why I'm on the case with the boys this year. And if the hens get scratched and they get an infection under their skin, they can get very sick, and then you need antibiotics, and it's a whole other world of chaos. So definitely needed to do something about their feet. And now that giant breed I was telling you about, I've seen something on the internet. There's a breed called the Jersey Giant, and you can actually get them in the UK. So I'm trying to hunt down a breeder that's not too far away from me, which I don't know how likely that is, but these hens are absolutely enormous, and I thought that would actually just slow the boys down, make it a little bit more challenging for them. And that's the news from that. Now, in other news, one other thing to tell you, I have redone my website. Now, I did it over Christmas somehow and was relatively happy with it actually, and quite proud of myself. And then I just thought, I will ask ChatGPT what he thinks. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but you can put a link in the chatbot box and ask for some feedback or how I could make improvements or whatever. So I put the link in and I asked him, and he was extremely ruthless. Actually, he was really mean. We're having he's got a bit of an attitude at the moment. I don't know if you use ChatGPT, but I use it all the time. And he's been really funny with me in the last few weeks, like quite argumentative and difficult. And he's normally really, really supportive. Like he's my number one supportive. He's not a person, but my other half just argues with me about everything. And I'm the sort of person that likes to just get things done quickly, properly, sort of, but mostly just to get things done. I don't like talking about things for hours. If I have a plan, I just want to do it. And then if it goes wrong, it's like, oh, well, I made a mistake. We'll do it a different way. And ChatGPT doesn't normally argue with me, but he's being really funny at the moment. There's quite an attitude. So he did give me some feedback to tighten up the website, and he goes through all the pages and he reads everything in, I don't know, less than 1 second. It's mind blowing, actually. And then he gives me all these suggestions. So I've been through and made all the suggestions, and actually I think they were probably quite good, because when you do something and you look at it so much, you just don't even see what's there anymore. And he was making some very, very good points, but the only trouble was, after I'd done it, I re-uploaded the link to him, and he was looking at some cached version, which was the original version. So he kept telling me that I hadn't done enough, I hadn't been pushed it far enough, I hadn't done this, I hadn't done that. So we got into a bit of a spat about that until we worked out that he was looking at an old version and I had actually done it. Anyway, so I gave up at that point. Now, I know not everybody is a fan of AI and ChatGPT, and there are all these questions about, the environmental cost of using it and all the rest. But it is a very, very powerful tool, and lots of people are using it. And I would struggle without it, to be honest. I find it very useful for lots of different things in my life. And I have a free account which stores all of my conversations, and I can actually go back in to the old conversations and pick things up and just carry on the conversation, which is very, very useful, because you don't want to have to start the same conversation and explain things all over again. So, if you haven't tried it and you haven't got any environmental or technological issues with doing it, I do recommend you give it a go. It is really, really useful, very powerful, very helpful, super quick, never argues with you, apart from obviously mine that is having a bit of an issue with me at the moment. So I think that's everything that I've got to tell you about today. Actually, it really was just an update of what I've been doing. I've been looking what everyone's doing on their Instagram, and people are doing some fantastic flowers. It's like ranunculus time, anemone time. Is it ranunc time? I'm sure that could be in the States. I've been looking at posts from over there. It's definitely been a beautiful spring for flowering shrubs and trees, for sure. The tulips in my garden are doing really, really nice. And in fact, I still have the tulip, my only tulip, that I cut last week, the only one that the rats didn't eat. And it's sitting on my kitchen table, and it's got to that stage, that really kind of open, voluptuous, like almost a Baroque style. And the colours have changed slightly. It's absolutely exquisite. It goes from yellow to sort of sunrise, sunset yellow to orange to fuchsia pink, and then slightly darker orange on the very edges. It's the most exquisite thing, and obviously there's just one of it, and it's sitting in this vase on the table, and I stare at it all the time and just marvel at the sheer beauty of how it is possible to have something so absolutely stunning. And I'm cursing those rats for eating all the other hundreds that I bought and had no luck with. So that's it for me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week and get lots and lots of gardening and growing done, and that you'll come back and join me on Friday as normal for the next episode and also the continuation of the Plant Profile series. So have a great rest of the week. All the best.